a nature nut, I'm not afraid to admit. I'm wild about the wild things and I'm proud of it. I'm just a simple case, open and shut. No doubt about it, I'm a nature nut. Today we'll go bird watching, tomorrow we'll catch toads. The next day we'll take photographs of bugs along the road. I never get the feeling that I'm in a rut. That's why I'm a nature nut. Well, I'm a nature nut, I'm not afraid to admit. I'm wild about the wild things and I'm proud of it. I'm just a simple case, open and shut. No doubt about it, I'm a nature nut.
Well, hello there, nature nuts. How are you? Today, we're going to explore the fascinating world of animal color. Why animals are colored the way they are. And what I mean by color is both the hue and the pattern. Hue is, what's the tint? It's what actual color we're talking about. This is blue, that's green. If you have to adjust your set, go ahead. And the pattern is how those colors are arranged on the animal's body. I guess you could also talk about shade, whether the colors are light or dark. It's very complex, very interesting, and the whole reason that I find it interesting is because all animal colors, at least the ones that are exposed to light at some point in their life, all animal colors have some sort of function. They're there for a purpose, for a reason, and it's very, very interesting to try to guess what that reason might be. I'll warn you though, it's very easy to make those sorts of guesses once you know something about animal colors. It's very difficult to prove that your guesses are correct without doing big, long experiments with other animals, with predators and so on. We don't have time for that, so you're just gonna have to trust me. This is my version of animal colors, and it might differ from that of the next biologist down the road. Anyway, let's go have a look at those animal colors. We know it's always a lot of fun to try to guess what bird colors are there for. And we've got some really neat birds right in front of us here. Have a look. They're called Hawaiian black-necked stilts. Now, I've never read anything about stilt coloration, but let me just take a few guesses here. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. The bird is obviously really black and white. Now, if you were one of the little fish or bugs that these stilts are hunting, and you looked up through the water, what you would see would be the white belly and the white underside of the neck of this stilt, and it would probably blend in fairly well with the lightness of the sky, especially on a cloudy day. On the other hand, if you were some kind of bird of prey, a falcon or something, looking to kill and eat one of these stilts, not that there are any falcons around here, but you know, there are falcons in places where there are stilts. Looking down on the back of the stilt, you just see the black color, and the black would probably blend in fairly well with the darkness of the water or the mud or what have you. So from the top or from the bottom, these animals are actually camouflaged. From the side, the way we usually see them, they're not camouflaged at all. They're very strikingly colored, and that's the way that they see each other. In some species of animals, there are different color forms which live together in the same population. You know, another interesting aspect of animal colors is the fact that many animals have been selectively bred in captivity specifically for their colors. There's probably no better example than these koi, and they're really beautiful fish, especially when you consider how uninspiring a wild carp can be. It doesn't have any of these beautiful colors. For someone like me, it's nice to just sit beside a koi pond and say things like, "Whoa, there's a white one. Or there's a yellow one. Or there's a splotchy one." But if you are a koi breeder, steeped in the koi tradition, a fish with just the right pedigree and just the right pattern of splotches on it, that fish would be worth a lot of money. And you hear stories about people who pay as much as $50,000 for a single fish. Seems like a peculiar thing to do when you think about the fact that there are beautiful fish all over the world to start with. But I guess we do spend a lot of money on ridiculous things. I can't think of a single example. Quite as weird as that, though. Maybe a really ugly painting or a super expensive bottle of wine. At least a fish is likely to lay eggs. You know, there are some animals that can change their colors quite quickly, and the most famous of those are, of course, the chameleons. This is a chameleon, and it's a camouflaged animal. It has a nice greenish color right now, which would be perfect for hiding out in green leaves. But you know, even though most people believe that chameleons can match any background, they really can't. If I put this chameleon on this lovely shirt, it's not going to turn blue with little pink doodads on it. That's just not going to happen. It continues to remain green because it knows that green is a good camouflage color. The colors of chameleons have a lot more to do with how warm they are and with the sort of mood that they're in. In the morning, these animals are generally quite dark before they warm up, before they become active, and when they do become active, the adults turn into this nice sort of green, some blues, some yellows. And like I said, their mood has a lot to do with it too, and if there's one thing that puts a chameleon in a bad mood, it's seeing another chameleon. They're very territorial. Now, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to show it a reflection of itself in this mirror, and it should work out that as soon as they see the intruding chameleon trying to catch bugs on their favorite bush, they should just give it the evil eye, and it could be quite dramatic. Now, we'll see if there's any color change associated with that. And there we go. Sneak that into place. Ooh, you see that? It worked quite well. She flattens herself to look bigger than she really is, flattens side to side, and flares the throat out. There's a bit more black, a bit more yellow in the color there. And I'll give her the impression that she won that little confrontation, and the other chameleon decided to go look for another place to hunt bugs. There's a male over on this other branch here. We'll try it with the male as well. Ooh! Opened the mouth and everything. Oh yeah, he's definitely looking very upset with this intruder. A lot more black, more yellow, maybe even more blue. Male Jackson's chameleon in the prime of its color change in existence. Now that's not an awful lot of color change, but it is color change. The young ones, by the way, they don't turn green at all. They remain this sort of blotchy, browny, grayish color, and you can see this young one down here. It just goes to show you that there are advantages to not being stuck with the same color pattern all day and all night. Young animals sometimes have different colors than adults since they do different things. Now what about warning colors? Colors that tell you that an animal is either, well, bad tasting or venomous or dangerous. It's the same principle as a prisoner outfit. It tells you that whoever's wearing it is a dangerous person. Now, we're all familiar with warning colors because bees and wasps have warning colors, usually some sort of broadly banded white and black or black and yellow sort of pattern, very much like a prisoner outfit. But the bees in this garden, they're rather unusual, at least they seem unusual to me. They're carpenter bees, and instead of having the usual sort of bumblebee pattern, they are black with a bluish iridescent sheen. Now that is actually a fairly common sort of warning color when you get further south into tropical America. Nature doesn't just have one set of warning colors, it has a number of different options that have evolved in different places. So these bees are giving the same message to other animals that the bees are back home. Don't touch me, I have a stinger, I'm dangerous. Now, I've also seen some interesting ladybugs here, and here's one right there. These ones have the same basic principle going. Instead of being orange with black spots or red with black spots, what we're used to, it's again blackish with a bluish iridescence and with a couple of orange spots just to get that message home. Don't touch me, I taste terrible. Well, camouflage colors, they don't just work for animals that are trying to hide from their predators by blending into the background. They can also work for the predators themselves. Have a look in these little yellow flowers and you'll see some amazing crab spiders that are just about exactly the same shade of yellow. And they sit there with their arms outstretched, waiting for some unsuspecting pollinating insect, and then they just grab them and kill them. I don't think they're going to get these big wasps or the metallic wood-boring beetles that are feeding at these flowers, but there are at least 2 of them here that are sucking the juices out of bee flies. That's camouflage colors for you. They can work for the predators or for the prey. You know, there are always a lot more camouflaged creatures around you than you suspect. And the best way to spot them is to sit in one place and watch carefully and wait for them to move. That's because they're hard to see. They're blending into the background. There are many different kinds of camouflage. Rock-colored animals, gravel-colored, sand-colored. Some of them are bark-like, some of them are leafy. I've been watching these lava boulders over here, and there's some wonderfully camouflaged crabs crawling around on the boulders. Now, if you were a crab-eating bird, you probably wouldn't see those things from a distance, and even up close, they're hard to see when they hold still. You only really notice them because of their movement, and when they sense that there's a predator in the area, they'll usually either hide or hold still. After all, if you're trying to look like a rock, it's best to behave like a rock as well. Beautifully camouflaged, very typical. But you know, in my opinion, most camouflaged animals, they don't know that they're camouflaged. They just assume that they're camouflaged. They blend in to the environment in which they evolved. Once they encounter some sort of environment where they didn't evolve, they can get messed up, like this plover out here, golden plover. It's a sort of a shorebird, and it's obviously camouflaged with that mottled pattern. It would blend in very well on a brownish sort of beach, which is exactly the sort of habitat they usually hang out in. But here in Hawaii, they've found that they really like lawns. They run around on lawns like robins, and they catch bugs in the grass, and they don't blend in at all. In fact, they're really, really obvious on the lawns, and it's kind of funny. They must think that they're hidden when they're not. You often hear that Hawaii is a paradise for plovers. True plovers. You get it? Yeah. Some animal colors come from pigments, while others come from the way light hits microscopic ridges, layers, or particles. Okay, well, let's get out of the tropical sun for a moment and talk about another aspect of animal color. You know, I used to study animal color when I was doing my master's thesis research on tiger beetles in the Canadian prairies, and it was very, very interesting stuff because I was able to figure out why most of the beetles had the colors they did. Some of them were very light colored, running around on sand, both for camouflage, to look like sand, and to avoid overheating in the sun. Darker beetles were generally found in cooler places further north, but there was one species, actually a subspecies, that I could not figure out. This one here. It's called Cicindula scutellarius. It has no common name, but it's one of the most beautiful beetles in all of Canada. I mean, have a look at this thing. It is strikingly red and green, iridescent in color, and I could not figure out why this beetle would have this bright color pattern while all of its close relatives had color patterns that had to do with camouflage and regulating their body temperature. Very, very puzzling. But eventually I recognized the fact that it was sharing the same color pattern with another beetle in the same environments, a blister beetle, and the blister beetle was poisonous. It had in its body the compound cantharidin, very toxic. So by looking like a poisonous blister beetle, the tiger beetle gained some protection of its own. So anyway, I published a scientific paper on this subject. I'll show you the illustration here. And there is our tiger beetle with the blister beetle that it resembles. This is another tiger beetle, a tropical one that mimics a wingless female wasp, a velvet ant that has a very powerful sting. And so by looking like something dangerous, the beetle receives a great deal of benefit.
The animal colors, have a look through the animal's eyes, have a look at the hue and the pattern, have a look, I think you'll be surprised. Some kind of critters have beautiful colors just to impress their mates. Guys go cruising, females do the choosing, if your colors are the best you get a date. There are exceptions, but they're rare, sometimes a female makes you stare. Have a look at the animal colors, have a look through the animal's eyes, have a look at the hue and the pattern, have a look, I think you'll be surprised. Some kind of critters have a flashy look, they say watch yourself. Bodies filled with toxic gook, if you eat them you will rail. You'll never learn if it kills you dead, make you really sick instead. Have a look at the animal colors, have a look through the animal's eyes, have a look at the hue and the pattern, have a look, I think you'll be surprised. Some kind of critters are tough to spot, blend right into the scene. Camouflage is what they got, usually brown or green. You cannot create illusions here unless you've been around for a million years. Have a look at the animal colors, have a look through the animal's eyes, have a look at the hue and the pattern, have a look, I think you'll be surprised. Have a look at the animal colors, have a look through the animal's eyes, have a look at the hue and the pattern, have a look, I think you'll be surprised. Have a look.
Isn't that just an amazing looking bird? On Sanibel Island in Florida, it's a very popular place for watching birds, and these are roseate spoonbills. Now, there's a difference between a pink bird and a red bird. Red birds, hey, they're nice, but they're a dime a dozen. Cardinals, pine grosbeaks, everybody likes red birds. But there are lots and lots of red birds. There aren't that many pink birds, and when you think about it, they're all kind of large birds that live in this kind of an environment, feeding in salt or brackish water. These roseate spoonbills, and keep in mind the word roseate refers to their color. They should be called shocking pink spoonbills, because that's really what they are. They feed on small aquatic creatures that live in the shallow water and in the mud, and that explains why they have this weird spoon-shaped bill. They feel around with the bill, they devour these things, and that's where they get the pink pigment that goes into their feathers. They don't generate it in their body. It's in the little critters that they eat, and it passes through their system without being chemically changed. If these roseate spoonbills were in a zoo, just eating, bird food of whatever sort one would feed to a roseate spoonbill, they turn white. The same as zoo flamingos often turn white. They have to give them special flamingo food that includes the right pigment. Of course, the pink pigment isn't the only pigment they have. Especially in the breeding season, the males get a lot of orange on them as well, and they even get a green head.
Some courtship colors are kept hidden until the animal wants to show off to a member of the opposite sex.
makes me want to snork, and yes, to maskel too, to float above the salty sea and gawk at the ocean zoo. My breath quickens through the tube when schools of fish I pass. Amongst the corals, urchins, and sand. Ooh, look, there's the Christmas wrasse. What are these ones with yellow pectorals and tails of layered shape? And waters filtering light to blue, such colors go to waste. Surgeons, unicorns, butterflies, angels, grunts, and blennies, bobbing along in the balmy swells. I've never seen so many.
Well, you know, there's some places where the animals are just naturally much more colorful than in other places. And one of them is definitely the coral reefs. I've always wondered why coral reef fish are just so much more colorful than fish in other places, in fresh water, for example. I think it has to do partly with the fact that the coral reefs are in very shallow water, partly with the fact that they are generally in clear water, and also with the fact that they're very productive ecosystems, so there are lots of species of fish, and there are lots of reasons for the fish to give big visual messages to their neighbors and to be colorful for a signaling purpose. Some camouflage colors look like an animal's background, while others make the animal look like a leaf or a rock. Well, I guess that's all the time we've got for animal colors. It's a big topic, though, let me tell you. We never got any chance to talk about colors that serve more than one function at once, colors that are there to help an animal maintain the right body temperature, or the difference between human vision and animal vision, or the difference between vision and perception. It's a big topic. Maybe we'll come back to it. But the main thing to remember is animal colors aren't just there as some sort of whimsical art. They're all there for a purpose, and figuring out that purpose, it's a really neat mental exercise. I try to get a little bit of mental exercise every day. That's why I'm a nature nut, and I hope you are too. Bye for now. Aloha.
Same time each and every week, uncensored and uncut. No doubt about it, I'm a nature nut.